Hi, good afternoon, and welcome everyone to another edition of the Loeries Creative Hour. Really excited today. We have a fantastic guest, and we'll just wait for AB to join us in a minute or so. Hi, AB, how are you doing? Ooh, so let me see. Let's unmute really quickly. It's always the technical stuff there.
How you doing? Am I on?
Perfect. Can you hear me? Yeah, perfectly.
Perfectly, man. I'm well. How you doing? You good?
Fantastic. All good. So good to see you. It actually, it's a very different scene from I'm used to. Are you back in the office, AB?
No, I'm just downstairs. Yeah.
It-
I also got tired of the scenery, Change of scenery is
oh,
always good.
see, I need to try that. To
Yeah.
everyone who's tuning in, AB and I have had lots of chats, and I think we all get used to our, we have an online persona, and then we also have our Zoom persona in terms of this who we are on Zoom. So it's good to see
Yeah.
you, and good to have you also in a different background. Just to give
Cool.
everyone a little bit. Fantastic. I just want to give everyone a little bit of background in terms of things that are happening at the Loeries before we get into our chat with AB. So amazing stuff is tickets for Loeries Creative Week go on sale from Monday. As you've been known, as you've seen in the little snippet that I shared, Loeries Creative Week is going to be a broadcast event happening from the 16th to the 20th of November this year. It is going to be an amazing gathering of minds, and you can join some of the brightest creative minds from across Africa and the Middle East as we get together, as we interact, connect, and hear from some amazing speakers from around the world. And also, most importantly, is that we've been working on getting you the best results possible from the Loeries judging. We doubled our entries this year, a fantastic field of entries, some of the most amazing stories and experiences pre-COVID and during COVID. And you're going to get access to all of that amazing content by joining Loeries Creative Week. So remember, that's Monday. Look out for social media. Tickets are going on sale, and we'd love to have all of you join us and be part of it. The other thing that we are doing to ensure that we're supporting the industry is that the tickets are ridiculously cheap. So just to give you an idea, it's cheaper than the cost of lunch per day for a person to attend. So you have a look at it. It's going to be amazing. We should have a huge group of people joining us. But today we're here to chat to AB, and just to give you a little bit of background on AB. So our guest today is AB Magatswane, and we are discussing AB's experiments in purpose. AB is the managing executive of brand communication and sponsorships at Vodacom, overseeing the brand across South Africa, Lesotho, Mozambique, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. AB chairs the Purpose and Spirit Steerco at Vodacom and is a member of the Global Vodafone Purpose Committee. Prior to joining Vodacom in 2018, he was CEO of Ogilvy South Africa. During his 6-year tenure at Ogilvy, Ogilvy remained the largest marketing services group in South Africa and transformed into a digital-first agency, and was the most creative agency in South Africa for 5 years in a row. AB was nominated as one of South Africa's Mail and Guardian's top 200 young leaders in 2011. He was GQ's 2013 Best Dressed Man and was one of Destiny Man's 2017 top 40 under 40. That is an amazing list of accolades, and we're so honored to have you join us today for Loeries Creative Hour, AB.
Thank you so much for that interpretation. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor. It's an awesome platform. So huge respect for the Loeries and what it does for the industry and our country, and what it can do for industry broadly. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, AB. And it's so good to have such a wide group of people joining us as well. And I just want to say hello to some people on the Zoom call. Jared Sinman is here, Katrine Grobler, Lamise Mode, Leon Pechai, Lee Andrews, Pumi Nisi, Prudence Ndala, just a few of the people who are on this call. It's a shame we can't mention all the names. And then let's not forget that we have an amazingly large audience who are tuning in and viewing this through Facebook as well. So everyone who's tuning through Facebook, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being part of the conversation. AB, I have to ask the stereotypical obvious question: how are you coping during this lockdown? How are things going for you, and how are things going for Vodacom as a business in this time?
Sure. So let me start with me personally. It's been an amazing time for me. I mean, I've enjoyed being at home. I've enjoyed working from home. I've enjoyed spending time with my son. and just being much more of an integral part of his life. He's gone back to school now, so that obviously presents a kind of a new scenario. But I've really enjoyed the time of reflection and not having to deal with traffic. The other side of that is, I think what is really not working well for me is the impact that COVID and kind of working from home and all of that has meant for the rest of the country. I think I'm really fortunate to be able to work from home and have it be comfortable and have fiber and be connected and be able to still be productive. But that is not, something that a lot of people have access to. So it's good and bad. From a company perspective, we've obviously done really well from a commercial perspective as more people are joining the digital economy, which is something that we've always wanted to encourage. I think COVID certainly accelerated that. And we've had, a really good 6 months, but we know that we are simply part of the South African economic ecosystem. And we anticipate that we're going to have a really tough second half of our year. So we're bracing ourselves for that. So again, a mixed bag in both areas.
And your team, and I think lots of us form parts of teams, we find that this struggle, it's amazing having technology like this. But in terms of teams, how has it been managing teams during this time and ensuring that the team's morale stays quite high during the challenges of COVID-19?
Listen, the team has been incredibly resilient. In the first, I'd say the first 7 weeks that we were all working from home, we had to just readjust the way that we functioned. And there was a huge volume of work that was expected out of the marketing team over and above the high intensity environment we work in anyway, because we had to be responsive to customers. We had to think ahead around what kind of issues people would be facing and make sure that as a brand, we were communicating effectively and accessible to our customers. So that really ramped up a lot of the time that the team had to spend. And we have a lot of family people that are looking after families in the team. So that was a really difficult time for them, just adjusting to that new way of working. But they've been extremely resilient. The workload has not eased, but the productivity has, if anything, has gone up for our team. And huge kudos to them. I mean, we've been able to produce almost double the amount of campaigns and volume of work working from home than we were when we were just working on the normal calendar when we were in the office. So it's worked really well for them. And to be frank, I think that we are all thinking about how do we take what we've learned from this phase into what's going to hopefully be a better normal going forward. I don't think that we are ever going to go back to a typical 9-to-5 scenario. Now we're just working out how we're doing that. I'll tell you an interesting thing. One of my team members has relocated to Durban. So we're going to have someone who doesn't even live in the city, who's a core part of the brand team. And I think we're going to get more and more of that as we go along.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think in this world that we live in, it's meeting of minds is so much more important than being physically present in a space. Because I think during this lockdown, the one thing we've learned is that there's been a stronger meeting of minds during this time than we could have ever hoped to have achieved if we're in physical locations, because we've saved on the travel time. We've saved on just these little challenges that the physical world brings us. It's nice to go back and have some of it, and it will be a hybrid world, but I think the meeting of minds is much stronger now than it's ever been, which is good for us.
Yeah, it's very good. And I think, the agencies that we work with, huge kudos to them, because I think within the kind of creative environment where you've got to kind of be constantly co-creating ideas, it must have been even more difficult for them to kind of, keep and step up to the new level that was expected of them, because they weren't physically together. So I think I've always wondered if the kind of creative industry would be able to still be as productive and as fluid in this environment as they were when we could meet all physically. And they really they've taken up the challenge and they've really produced some amazing work in that time. So huge kudos to them too.
Fantastic. To everyone that's joining us, we've got about 45 more minutes with AB, and normally this is very self-indulgent. I've got all of my questions that I need to go through, but if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A function. Please share it with anything you want to know from AB. It's a great platform, great opportunity to chat to him. One of the things I'm curious about is I'm always curious about, you know, this purpose-led life. And I find that the journey of how people started, it sets them on that. Some people start in the middle and different, but it is a foundation phase in growing up. Tell us more about what's led you on this journey. What was your childhood like? What was it like entering the brand communication industry? Why are you on this journey?
I grew up in a shop. I grew up in a township called Winterveld, which is north of Pretoria, aka Scandaf, for those people that know the township. So I grew up in an environment where I was in a business that was serving a huge spectrum of the community. So living in a township, you were servicing the kind of doctor who had a surgery up the road, to the bricklayer who was earning daily wages in Pretoria and coming home and picking up and buying some bread and some acha before going home. So I grew up in an environment where I met multiple people, lots of people who are all buying different things. And I learned very quickly that actually there's no distinction between human beings. We all the same intrinsically. We may earn different, we may look different, but fundamentally we all have value to add. And the doctor and the bricklayer were all buying the same loaf of bread. So that's been really instrumental in the way that I've thought about branding and marketing. And I think I was in the game much sooner than I thought, because I was actually fascinated from an early age around why people buy certain products and why they didn't buy certain products. And I remember drawing and making little posters with price points on it, trying to see if that would make any difference. It didn't really, but I was interested in the experiment. So I think growing up in Mabopane, growing up in a township where we were of service to people, is something that's really stayed with me. And in everything I've done since then, I've tried to do both, is to kind of make money, but at the same time, kind of be of service to the community in which you operate in.
I was fascinated when I read the story of how your sister and yourself used to make those little point of sale material, advertising material for the store and try and get people to buy products that they wouldn't normally. I think that's fascinating. It's such a good story. So was that something that motivated you to get into brand communication? What created that leap into the space versus anything else you could have done?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been something that I've been fascinated about. I'm fascinated about behavior and culture, and really the psychology of what turns people on. And I was thinking, there's a number of different options. You can go into psychology and be a psychologist. I think I'm crazy enough, so I was never really going to help anyone. So that was kind of, that wasn't going to work. But I thought that marketing was an angle in which I could use my passion for understanding people and motivation in a field of work that I thought I could have some real influence in. I mean, my first job, I see Jared Sinman is on the call, but my first job as a marketing intern was for VWV. And at that stage, VWV was probably one of the biggest digital agencies in the country at that stage. I think there was another company called Electric Ocean. Aqua might have been around at that stage. So I grew up as an intern in an agency that was quite the antithesis of, straight line advertising. It was kind of the alternative of marketing. And that also just kind of made me think that whatever role I play in marketing was always going to be something where I've had to look at all alternatives in terms of how you actually apply yourself. So I'd say my love for psychology and really how I started my career really got me into the career path that I'm in at the moment.
Yeah, what's interesting is you've been on, as you said, you started off your career at VW. Was it at VWV that you started off your career?
Yeah.
Was it at VWV as well? For a lot of people, finding purpose, and I think when you get into the career world, it's a very difficult time because you're still trying to find that personal identity and who you are, but you get into the working world and you're quickly forced to find that professional identity. And I think both these identities gel really well in terms of finding eventually what your purpose is in life. How important is it, and how important was it for you in terms of the journey that you had early in your career and where you started off, and how important is it for young people on this call to understand the importance of that first job in trying to set expectations and your goal of your purpose in life?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think they're different things, right? I think you're lucky if you are able to, first of all, at a young age, understand what your purpose is. And I think I knew what it was without really being able to articulate it, and that's also okay. But I think that with all the knowledge that's around these days, and all the the body of work around what purpose is and how to find it, I think it's easier for young people to read up and really get to the core of who you are and what motivates you. Because purpose is that thing that's going to make sure that you can get through the dark days, that helps you get up when you've been knocked down 100 times. So it's really important to identify that. And then, I think that you're lucky if you can figure that out. The second part is if you're going to be lucky enough to work in an environment that is coherent with that and consistent with that particular purpose drive. I think now more than ever, companies are putting the purpose that they stand for, they're projecting it much more. They're speaking about it much more because they know that it drives customer choice. So it's a commercial decision too, let's be frank. It's much easier to join those two dots, but my advice for young people, whenever I speak to younger people, is like, understand what your purpose is and make sure that you are doing absolutely everything you can to align the rest of your life to it. But I still think that you're lucky if you can get both right.
So how do you recommend somebody goes
Because most of us are just trying to get a job, right?
Yeah. Sorry, it's a
yeah.
little different.
How would you recommend what?
How do you recommend going through the process of finding your purpose in life?
Look, I could recommend some books that I think are really helpful. I think that Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, like the full book is really, it's really thick and dense, and I could never get it. So I read the summary version, which is like 130 pages. Easy read, amazing read, but it speaks around being present and really being able to draw the distinction between yourself and your ego. And I think that is one of the key steps in understanding your purpose, is kind of separating who you are and the value that you add to the world from your own ego, which is quite a thing that you just have to get your mind and your heart around as you grow up. So that's number one. Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's the classic self-help book. And to be honest, I only read it because I needed to make a video of it. But really one of the best things I've ever read in my whole life. I think that was a really good guide in terms of that. And then there is another book, final book by Adam Morgan, called The Pirate Inside. I would say kind of read that context. And in there are lots of tools that will help you really identify where you can sit from a purpose perspective. Yeah, that would be my advice.
And I think that's a fantastic, selection of books to actually go out and read. And what's helped is it helps a lot with your introspection. What about, maybe from your personal example as well, is it useful having people who can guide you in your purpose, and were there people who are instrumental in helping you identify your purpose?
Yeah, there's always been. I mean, I've been fortunate to have the most incredible people around me, both younger and older than me, by the way. So you can learn lessons from many different people. I came across a guy called Clive Simpkins when I was still at VWV. And he's the one that said to me, listen, you need to go and work in a corporate. Like, your agency life at this stage is great because you've got a great introduction to the industry, but really kind of, you need to find a way of being able to apply this in a broader corporate environment just in your early years. And that's how I landed up at SAB, by the way. He recommended that I meet some people, and I ended up at SAB at that stage. Another really great influence in my life has been Nonon Jingila, who runs Facebook right now. She was my mentor while I was at VWV, and eventually became my chairman at Ogilvy, and is someone that I'm still very close to. But, I think those are just two examples. I've got so many of people that have been so instrumental in guiding my life. And then right now, I must say, like, my son is constantly challenging who I am and how I reflect as a man and as a father, and keeps me on my toes. So he's a constant source of are you doing the right thing? I said yesterday, I sent a tweet saying, at the end of each day, you should ask yourself, do you want to save these changes? And he's certainly someone that kind of, makes me think about, like, with what I've done today, do I want to save these changes and move on, or do I want to discard? So yeah, I think it's always amazing to be open to influence from around you.
I also want to look at when you speak about companies these days, which are a lot more vocal about their purpose as well.
Yeah.
What is your recommendation if you find yourself somehow, I mean, I think you always join a company because you find that there's some sort of alignment, but sometimes people join a company and they go, there's just no merging or marriage of purpose between the organization and who I am as an individual. What do you do in a situation like that? Hi, Amy.
A lot of,
Hi, Amy. Sorry, I'm not too sure. Sometimes the network. Yeah.
Am I back?
You're back. I can hear you now.
Okay. I think you must be the change. Thanks. I think you must be the change you want to see. So I think that companies these days are much more open to engaging with people, getting insight from staff members around what the way forward is. So if you can't find a place outside that is going to be best suitable for you, think about how to make the environment in which you're operating in as suitable as possible. For example, I mean, at Vodacom right now, I chair the Purpose and Spirit Steering Committee, which looks over our purpose narrative and our drives and initiatives across the business. But we are engaging we have a youth council that is made up of young people from across the business that are now, they've kind of co-opted into this function, and they're also contributing ideas around what we could be doing going forward. And I don't know any company these days that isn't open to staff engagement and feedback. So I would get involved and try and be the change that you want to see. I don't think there's any company who's naive to the fact that being a purpose-led organization is good for business. So you have got willing minds and really you can take the initiative and get stuck in. If you can't, then and you're fortunate enough to be able to move on, you must move on. But I'd say, try and make the change that you want to see.
That's great, because I think that was going to be my next question, which you answered perfectly. Because I think for a lot of people, they always wonder is, do I have the ability to change my organization and to guide it in its purpose? And I can see obviously at Vodacom, that's definitely a case where I think you can see from youth all the way up. So at various levels, you're getting guidance from the team and from the staff in terms of where your organization is going.
Yeah, and even from an agency environment, I was asked kind of, what do you think one of kind of the next big skill set for agencies is going to be? And I really believe that if you're an agency that can build the capability and a capacity to be able to help your clients, one, identify their purpose, two, activate their purpose and make it real before communicating that purpose, I think it's really going to stand you in good stead, because everyone is trying to do it and everyone is looking for help. And there's no clear playbook. I mean, there's a lot of text out there at the moment, but to each his own. And I think if agencies have got a lot of people who are excellent at coming up and creating ideas that are going to change perception and inspire action, why don't you just channel that into helping companies change their perception around purpose and inspire them to act in a certain way that's good for making money, but at the same time good for making the world a better place? I think that agencies are really well set to be able to provide that type of IP and offering.
Great. The other area that I know you're very passionate about is the area of shared value. It's something we've chatted about quite a few times.
Yeah.
But it's an area that people don't understand really well. Would you like to give us some insight into shared value and maybe shared value at Vodacom as well?
Yeah. So I think if you really want to kind of go back to there was an article written in the Harvard Business Review around shared value. It's almost 10 years old. It'll be 10 years old in February next year, and it really just sets the basic premise that the world in which companies are only concerned with how much profit they're making, without being concerned around the environment in which they're operating, is over. There was, there's been a lot of focus that's been put onto a guy called Thomas Friedman, who really wrote about the fact that the company's sole responsibility is to the shareholder, and the company is just there to generate profits for the shareholder, and the shareholder can then decide what they're going to do with it. That context and that philosophy is aged now, because the customers that you are buying from, the governments in which you are in countries in which you're operating, and the regulators under whose auspices you're operating, are wanting and requiring a company to make money, but at the same time make sure that they're creating a sustainable environment that's going to move everybody forward. So shared value, quite simply, is make money, but do it in a way that creates a sustainable world, so that there's a virtuous circle and a cycle that really works for everyone. And that's something that's catching on. The likes of Unilever, Pullman was really one of the first guys who kind of went on and said, I'm going to make this a corporate philosophy, and I'm going to make sure that it manifests in everything that the organization does. But it's now in vogue and everybody's in it. But in a nutshell, it's really about making sure that making good and making money can coexist. And that is really what the gold standard is for corporates going forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations, we all know a lot of organizations have been really hard hit by the impact of COVID-19. And we may have a situation where somebody's watching this and going, shared value sounds great, but my business has just been hard hit by COVID-19. And I'm not sure that, my profits are being hit. Can I still implement shared value? And your insights in terms of how shared value can work, even if you've had to experience COVID-19 or any other major impact to your business.
Yeah, I think in many ways, I'm in an industry that is fortunate in the sense that when people started working from home and businesses started being able to run much more remotely, we benefited from that, because it created an economic system where we were providing the connectivity backbone, to that particular system, and that worked really well for us. And I speak from a position of advantage in terms of how COVID has been able to impact, even though I know that I'm part of a broader ecosystem that's really taking some serious strain at the moment. I think if I go, let's say 5 years back before COVID happened, and I was Vodacom, I would have been at that stage thinking about how do I create economic systems and digital systems that allow the mass to be able to access education. That's one of the things that I would have engaged in as a shared value initiative, because I would have anticipated a time where kids are on their tablets, kids are on their mobiles, and that is the primary source of their reading material. And I would have then created the platform called eSchool, which we have, that allowed many children to be able to access education today. So when COVID hit for us, we didn't invent anything that wasn't part of our pipeline. We simply just leveraged what we already had. So I think, the WeSchool model, that WeSchool platform that really has about now almost 2 million learners on, who are getting the entire public school syllabus for free. That is something that is a shared value initiative that is absolutely 100% beneficial for society, but is also going to benefit us in the long run. So it's a free service, so we make no money off it. But the people that access WeSchool are on average contributing 23% more in revenue to us than the same cohort of people that are not. So you can't argue with that kind of model. And I don't think that shared value initiatives are going to make a difference now. You really got to be thinking much more longer term in terms of bringing that into life. But to create some more kind of local environments. I mean, I'm thinking right now, city centers are going to be much less populated around the world. There's just going to be less people working and operating in hubs like Sandton, London, New York. The distribution of the economy is going to be flattened in some way, and kind of, in my view, more fairly distributed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a huge opportunity there as individuals to say, how can we support local industry? How can we support local SMMEs to help them over this particular curve? So I don't think that shared value is just something that companies need to be concerned about. I think shared value is something that even individuals can be concerned about and activate. And if we can all be thinking in that dual way, I think we'd just be in a better place.
And I think that's such a great insight, because I think the experience of being able to support a smaller business and even getting products that are made by smaller businesses is sometimes so much more enriching, and it adds so much more value to your life as well. So it's something that we should be playing on. The other thing I've seen. So yeah, no, did you want to share anything on that, AB?
No, I was going to say, just, from an individual perspective, I was challenged about 3 weeks ago when we were, inside the business, we made a pledge as men within the organization, and a stand against gender-based violence. And in fact, one of the people on the call actually said to me, yeah, it's kind of all fun and well doing the pledge, but so what are you doing about it? It's no longer good enough just to kind of say that you stand against GBV. And that is really something that got me to commit to, I'm going to be funding and providing a bursary for a young Black female to join AAA, where I went to school, and really just to cover her tuition and her boarding and accommodation until her degree is done, which is kind of 3 or 4 years from now. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford to do something like that, but I would never have done it if I wasn't kind of prompted to kind of say, it's no longer good enough just to pay lip service to these things. You can do something. And I wonder how many of us, externalize shared value and externalize purpose without actually being the change that we want to see, and making the sacrifices we need to make in order to make a difference. We're very good peanut gallery people, mostly, even about such virtuous things like shared value and purpose.
No, I think it's a great insight. And I think what's really useful is, I think that's such an amazing personal initiative that you're undertaking, because if we are going to make changes, we can't rely on our organizations and corporates to actually do it. We've got to start it ourselves as well. There's AB, so true. Talk is cheap. It is the delivery that counts. And Tiki Barnard from Shared Value Africa, the Shared Value Africa initiative as well, who's amazing, who've been doing work with as well. So thanks for that, Tiki, as well. And then the other insight I just want to share, having a look at a lot of the shared value insights that we've been seeing and the entries that are coming in. I think for a lot of organizations, what they have to realize is that even if they're in a constrained experience where you may have challenges of COVID-19 or whatever, your entire market's in the same space. And shared value is not about saying, let me take my profits and let me give it away. That's CSI. That's a very different initiative. Yeah. This is really about ensuring that we all grow together, and it's good for you. Shared value is a good initiative. So if anyone doesn't know much about it, I'd recommend you reading up a lot more on shared value and read up about the work that Tiki Barnard's also been doing, and that who's been on this feature as well a while back. Thanks. Yeah. I want to share something maybe at this stage. One of the amazing things that you've actually done is this, speaking about some of the work you've done, is Connect You. So let me just play this ad really quickly.
Ready to enjoy the best of the internet for free? No data, no problem with Connect You. Search for jobs, make CVs, get parenting tips, learn on your phone. Keep in touch with Facebook Flex. Take care of your family and be up to date with weather and news headlines. All with no data required. Go to connectyou.vodacom.co.za or the My Vodacom app. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodacom.
To anyone who sees that goes, that seems so counterintuitive for a business. It's like going into a restaurant and the restaurant goes, have a seat, we'll serve you whatever you want and you don't have to pay for it. That's essentially what we're looking at. Like, what's the logic? Tell us more about this Connect You campaign as well.
Yeah, so Connect You is part of our social compact. And it's really our way of providing free access to the benefits of being in the digital economy to as many people as are interested. So we actually have almost 1 million people that are accessing that platform on a monthly basis.
Mm.
And what we've done is we've put all our free services on that platform. So, if you want to search for jobs, all the job sites in South Africa, the URLs are completely free. So it doesn't cost you anything. We've already spoken about eSchool that provides the service where you can access the entire public school syllabus for free. We have a service called Mom and Baby that gives parenting advice and advice on how to look after children, prenatal up to the age of 5, again, as a free service. An interesting thing about that service, we've got about 1.8 million people that are registered on it now. 34% of the people that are registered are men. So it seems as though, at least from the stats that we've got, that men are also interested in understanding how to bring up their children. All of that is really around saying, as an organization, how can we help people join this digital economy, and how can we facilitate that transition? So we've really just, with Connect You, and again, it was one of those things, we launched it in mid-March, before COVID really broke.
Wow.
And we just saw the stats just completely ramp up once people were working and learning from home. And that's the logic around that. And again, we know that in the long term, what we are doing is we are transforming how society operates and engages with each other. And that's something that is going to benefit us in the long term, because people are going to be using the network that we've got and the network of our competitors. That's fine. It's all the same initiative around getting more and more people to adopt technology and understand what that technology has to offer them and how it's going to make their lives better. So that's what Connect You is about. And as we go on, we will keep adding more and more services onto that platform.
As Vodacom and as AB as an individual, you're responsible for a number of different markets across the African continent. What's your insights? I mean, Connect You is fantastic, and we can see the great results over here. But the rest of the African continent, do you have any insights in terms of similar initiatives or any other initiatives working in other markets unique to that?
Definitely. So my relationship is I work with the heads of marketing in Tanzania, DRC, Mozambique, Lesotho, and we really have got kind of a close working relationship, and we share information and we work with each other and leverage the insights in our respective markets. The single biggest digital economy boost and initiative that's happened on the African continent is Mpesa, by far. And Mpesa was licensed to Safaricom and a number of different Vodafone operations across the continent by Vodafone. And while the technology has been around for a very long time, it's only in Africa that it's really just reached new heights. And essentially, it's a money transfer application where in the past, if you needed to send some money to your grandmother in some kind of rural part of the country, you could basically pay an Mpesa agent. That money is transferred onto a mobile device, into a mobile currency, and your grandmother can draw the money either from a vendor, or she can use the credits, the Mpesa credits that she's got in a shop to buy goods and services. Right now, the Mpesa currency is being used for electricity. It's being used to pay school fees. It's being used to pay other municipal accounts. And a crazy stat, 45% of the Kenyan GDP runs through Mpesa. So I think in so many ways, we are so far ahead of the world in how we are utilizing digital technology to really help evolve our daily lives. And that's, we are looking at that Mpesa model and saying, how can we as South Africa learn from it? How can we understand what role mobile can play in being part of people's daily lives other than just connectivity? So, in the game that I operate in, there are probably more learnings in our other African markets than there are in South Africa, certainly than there are in other parts of the world. So it's a really amazing place to operate in this industry.
So I should tell you a funny story. When M-Pesa launched in South Africa, I did the I remember doing the research on that. And I can't remember, Katrine Grobler is on the call. And I can't remember if I did it with Katrine or it was somebody else in the Vodacom
Yeah.
team. And I remember how excited we were all about it. It's it's just so amazing, so changing in terms of its ability to change communities and
It's incredible.
sure the spread of money in different areas was just amazing. And I remember we went through lots of different areas doing the insights and how excited people about it. Yeah, so Mpesa is something I have a soft spot
It's
for.
amazing.
Love, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work in South Africa because South Africa's financial market is so well established. You don't need M-Pesa when you can just, pay someone through like e-wallets or whatever other services that the banking industry has at the moment. But what platforms like e-wallet haven't done is they haven't been able to plug and play into other functions like municipal bills and other kind of platforms that you really operate on a daily basis, that you can't use an e-wallet to pay your taxi fare or your bus fare, at least not at this stage, which is what's happening in Kenya. So we're looking at that and saying, what are the lessons from that particular market and what can we apply in here? Not everything is going to work, but it's certainly really exciting. So I think that from a purpose perspective, in terms of helping people join the digital economy, there has been no greater invention on this continent than M-Pesa.
Completely agree, and I think it still has a strong right to win, and I think it's all about innovation as well. Talk to me through Vodacom's innovation, and I'm sure you're very actively involved in that, and it's an area that I'm passionate about. Tell me about the innovation pipeline, and what is the thinking that goes into building the innovation pipeline, especially when you're so strongly invested in the concept of purpose.
Yeah, so I think what purpose has been able to do is it's been able to guide how we innovate and the direction in which we're going. Whereas in the past, I think our innovation lens was quite wide. It's now narrowed in the sense that our purpose is to connect for a better future. So everything that we think about, everything that we innovate on is around how do we help our customers and society connect in a world that's going to be better for them in the long run. So the innovation pipeline has a number of different dimensions. We are actually running in 2 weeks' time our own hackathon, where we've got, it's an Africa-wide hackathon. We've got teams from all over the markets, and they're basically being briefed to come up with innovations that are aligned to our purpose. And the winner will get up to R1 million. So it's something that we're putting, some significant amount of money behind, but simultaneously, we are constantly innovating around the lens of purpose. One of the most, the latest example, one of the examples, for example, is a program called Virtual Doctor that we partnered with Discovery on, where during COVID, we were allowing people for free to connect virtually with a doctor. So you could essentially get a free doctor consult with a qualified GP if you felt that you had the symptoms, the COVID symptoms. And they could virtually, literally, talk you through what was going on with you and your body. You give them some stats. They could even eventually write you a script to go and get a test or go and get certain medication. That is just the kind of innovation that you come up with if you're thinking about how do we connect people that would otherwise not have had access to those particular services using the network we've got. So we are working very hard, especially, even from a steerco perspective, around making sure that every single dimension of the business works towards that single-minded purpose of connecting for a better future.
One of the things that's almost become a buzzword during the COVID-19 pandemic has been this word collaboration. And what's interesting, you've got a perfect example here in terms of Vodacom collaborating with another major organization as well for the purpose of purpose-led innovation. How important is collaboration to Vodacom as an organization, and how important is it that when you collaborate to first align your purpose principles with the other organization?
Look, I think it's aligning with another organization that's got a similar purpose is ideal. But it's not essential. It's ideal, and I think in the case of Discovery, we are aligned in terms of our purpose. but it is an essential. So I think if you can find a partner that is able to help you achieve your purpose, that is also okay, because companies are at really different stages of their respective journey. I think that, you know, collaboration is one of the buzzwords now, just like you on mute. And I think, you know, collaboration is something that, you know, as a being Vodacom, we actually call ourselves a business of businesses, because everything happens through the network. We connect hospitals, we connect civil society and their stakeholders. We connect students to teachers. We connect companies to their workforces. So we actually used to being in the interplay between different parties. So collaboration really comes naturally to us. I think, you know, a real challenge for us really as a telco industry is how will we be able to collaborate with our competitors? And how will we be able to find uniform platforms that are able to move society forward? Because we're all going to get the benefits in the end. And I think one of it's easy to collaborate with someone that really has, you know, nothing to do with your business and is not a competitor to you. I think the more difficult, but probably in the long term, the more effective collaborations are the ones that are going to happen between competitors, where they can look at the industry as a whole and say, how do we move this thing forward together? Obviously within the right kind of competitive landscape. But I think that's the real challenge. And I don't have an answer. I mean, you know, most recently we've all had to zero rate the COVID tracker app, which is a great example of collaboration, because why wouldn't we? But those are the kind of things that we should have come up with in week one of this COVID pandemic, not at the stage that we're at. And that just shows you that I think there's still a lot of work that has to happen between competitors in terms of collaborating.
Speaking about week one of the COVID pandemic, I want to actually show an ad that I have from there. But maybe before I get into that, I think what's useful, what I'm actually getting from this is there's this interesting insight. And that insight, as we look at the screen before it starts playing, is, if I can paraphrase what you were saying, is that you can still deliver your purpose, even though you may have to collaborate with an organization who may not be on the same purpose path. Does that seem like a fair enough summary of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's have a look at this, and this is a great piece of copy.
Changes that we made Our network was born to unite. Every day we work to make it more reliable and powerful, because even when we can't be close, we can be together.
So this ad, I remember the first time I said it, and it gets me because it uses a version of Come Together, which was originally done by the Beatles, written by John Lennon. And I always go, if there was a soundtrack to my life, that song would be on it. Probably, yeah, that would be on it, because absolutely love it. The first time I watched it and I went, and my little girl knows the words to it. She's 3 years old and she knows the words to it. So even this ad, she knows purely from that song and the
just from the song. Wow.
So such a great example as well, and trying to bring people together. Well, I think we all know some of the logic, but maybe I won't put words in your mouth. Tell us about why there was a need to release that.
Look, I think, you know, everyone had to stay apart, but still stay connected in some way. And that commercial was really, it was about our network. And it was about how our network, we were investing in to make sure that people could stay connected even though they were apart. And we just happened to find the right framework and modular structure to be able to tell that story in a really authentic way. It was the first time that we did an ad completely virtually. I mean, that entire campaign was done on WhatsApp, WeTransfer, you know, completely virtually. All the shooting happened in different people's homes. So really amazing piece of work that the team did. And we're about to actually do a follow-up, because I think that ad spoke to South Africa in lockdown. And I think, and a lot of brands did that. And I think right now we need to speak to South Africa in really what is the beginning of this huge economic crisis. And I think once again, people are going to be looking to brands to say, what are you going to be providing? What reassurances and investments are you going to be making to make sure that I'm going to be okay in this next phase? So we've got something that's ready for that. But I think, you know, for me, the most interesting thing is that ad wasn't just about theory. It wasn't just about a feeling. It was about real investment that we're making. And there's some significant investments that we're making in this second phase. Mm-hmm. And our next campaign is going to be about celebrating and speaking about that.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing that as well. A bit of a self-indulgent question for all of us at the Loeries as well. So we've got the last few minutes. I want to know, you've probably been to a number of different Loeries. Do you remember the first one you attended?
Yes, I do. The first Loeries I went to as a guest was in 2012. I just joined Ogilvy, and it was in Cape Town. And it was my first kind of year as CEO. I came in as an outsider, so I wasn't quite familiar with, you know, the stuff that happens at the Loeries. And just I actually made a mix, a DJ mix for that particular Loeries, because, you know, the Ogilvy parties were always like the biggest parties. And I recorded the mix that I played at our party that day, and it's just like, it's still something that's going to be incredible. But I'm really looking forward to what we're going to do this year at the Loeries. I think it's an interesting challenge to see the most creative industry award put a show together for us that's going to be completely virtual. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be an amazing one and an interesting one. And also thank you for your support. For anyone who doesn't know, AB, as part of his role at Vodacom, they're sponsors of our shared value category, which is such an impactful category. So really appreciate all the support as well.
Our pleasure.
AB, since we have our last minute or so left, maybe, you know, one of the things we always look for is some words of encouragement, advice. People are always looking to say, can you look into your crystal ball and give us some advice in terms of what the future may hold, what we should be looking forward to, and just support during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are all in the creative industry in one way or another. And our jobs is to make the complex simple and the simple exciting. And I think if we can do that, we can change perception and inspire action. So I have huge faith in this industry to help people see a different and a better way. And I really look forward to the role that you're going to play in creating a better normal for society. So thank you so much for this platform. And it has been awesome chatting to you, Pritesh.
Thank you so much, AB. It's really, really great having you on and having this time. AB Mokotsoyo, Managing Executive of Brand Communications and Sponsorship at Vodacom. Appreciate your time, appreciate everything you do, and just all of the support, I think, behind the scenes as well. Every time we've chatted, we were actually having a chat, just a little anecdote. I was having a chat, and I'll share names later, but we are a group of us chatting, and we all went, everyone just went, we love AB. I've never met a single person who went, oh, I had a horrible experience with AB. Every person just mentions your positivity, positive experience, and I think,
thank goodness.
There was a few questions, which I'm sure no one on the side of there. So appreciate it. And also the positivity that you put out into the world is also felt really, really strongly. So thank you for all of that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Very kind. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, AB.
Cheers.
Thanks again. And all the best. Have a good weekend and looking forward to chatting soon. Take care.
Chat soon. Thank you so much, Pritesh. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.